kdo nám chce brát, co nám patří, zahrajem mu hned. My z Abrama ani dozy vzít si nedáme. Kdo se na nás odváží, tomu zahráme. Česká muzika tak vždy pěkně hrála, žádný šumařů nikdy se nebála. Forte spustíme hned, dosti všech těch věd, jací jsme my muzikanti, ať zní celý svět.
Good evening to everyone with or without ears. My name is Marlo, and as every evening, I am bringing you the newest news from the land of trumpets at places they don't belong. The borders might still be closed, but my mouth remains open, and so here we go with the freshly squeezed gossip from the Strechovitsky forest. Dear listeners, as you can hear, tonight I am broadcasting from the terrain. Yes, you've guessed it, the highly anticipated event we have all been eagerly awaiting is finally here. The Autumn Festival and the annual closing of the Springs is taking place this weekend. The surroundings of the Old Oak have temporarily changed into a colorful village square for this event. Trees have been decorated with colorful ribbons, the place under the oak have been turned into a lovely dance floor, and the clearing is lined with various stands with all sorts of goods, all from food to commemorative souvenirs. Whether you need a gingerbread heart for your significant other or a wooden spoon with today's date engraved, our local vendors have everything you need to enjoy this once-in-a-year event to the maximum. But to cover the events one by one, let's go back a bit. First of all, we as a community would love to thank our local Rusalki for putting so much time and effort into decorating the Old Oak and its surroundings. Thank you, girls. Without you, our forest would still look like an old cold train wreck. But back to the happenings of the weekend. All the forest creatures gathered around the Old Oak at 6 a.m. precisely. As our community consists of creatures and spirits from different times and periods, the dress code is never strictly set. Nevertheless, everyone took out their most festive clothes, from regional folk costumes to the most expensive gowns. This year, the highly anticipated visitor finally confirmed the attendance, and so after the morning prayer, Krakonosh stood in the head of our long and orderly procession. In peace and quiet, we walked up the stream of our river and rid the spring of all the dirt and clutter. Krakonosh's voice thundered through the forest as he locked the stream for the winter. And with his words, a procession of spirits with Morana in the head appeared on the horizon. And since every year the spirit procession contains an old traveling music band that got poisoned in our forest, the merrymaking could finally start. And now we are here, right in the middle of the fall celebrations. The first dance was, according to tradition, carried out by Krakonosh and Morana, but soon all the footable creatures joined in and the dance floor filled with spinning skirts and heel clackling. Everyone is singing and dancing as we all say goodbye to the warm days and welcome the cold nights instead. The forest fairies put together a lovely performance of folklore songs and dances, during which the Heikal joined the spirit band and accompanied them with his very unnaturally shiny French horn. After lunchtime, Vaya appeared out of nowhere, I almost didn't recognize him. He was wearing a folk costume which surprisingly seemed to fit him even better than his usual uniform. Not gonna lie, I spent quite some time at my humble home looking through the old encyclopedia of Czech folk costumes to figure out that his was actually an early 1900s costume from Hepsko. Well, he looked so elegant in that long dark blue coat and black hat. He apologized for coming late since he was preoccupied with some work, and then he invited me for lunch. Well, I did not resist since I was pretty hungry, and I believe I heard his stomach rumble numerous times through the music as well. It was a nice lunch. We had roast meat and some apple strudel. We talked and listened to the music. I really enjoyed it. Then all of a sudden Vaya took my hand. But before he could say anything, Heikal grabbed him from behind and dragged him right to the middle of the dance floor. Well, I was very confused as of what was going on, but soon everyone started clearing the room around Vaya, and he, well, though a little uncertain at first, he started singing. Soon everyone was dancing with him and I was Vaya in the crowd. Well, I wonder if he's been recruited to the war, since if I understood correctly the song he sang was a verbuņk. But I knew I would have to ask him later, since at that moment he seemed to be pretty preoccupied by all the ladies asking him to dance. The afternoon was filled with drinking and singing and many games. I stopped at Ježibaba's food stand. I saw how eagerly her new apprentice Marinka was looking at all the dancing youth, so when Ježibaba wasn't around I told Marinka to go dance. I would gladly take her place for some time since I didn't really have much to do there. She refused, saying her clothes wasn't festive enough, so I took the big ornate ribbon from my shirt and pinned it to her dress. I also gave her my hat. Well, it was a little big for her, but you should have seen how her eyes lit up. That being said, I spent most of the afternoon baking apple pies at the food stand, but I can't say I mind it. I like baking. I also like helping, and I enjoy serving people as well, so that was all good. Besides, I could sing on top of my lungs during baking, which I usually can't do at home. When the sun came down, we built a big circle out of stones. Every year it's such a surreal experience to see Morana this year along with Krakonosh dancing around the stone circle and chanting and singing until a shadowy figure appears in the middle of it. As the time passes, the figure gets more and more clear and starts getting brighter and brighter until suddenly it just bursts out in flames. It requires a lot of power to summon a fire giant, yet alone to safely contain him in the middle of the forest. Every year, all the forest creatures watch this ritual, holding their breaths in, not knowing whether the dangerous risk would be worth it. But every year it is. The fire giant sits in the middle of the circle and casts homely light and warmth at the creatures during the night celebrations, and after that, during the whole winter. The music started playing again and everyone got back to the dancing and singing and having the fun of their afterlives. Suddenly someone grabbed my hand and pulled me aside from the crowd. I got startled at first as I still had trouble recognizing Vaya without his green uniform. He was smiling and his eyes were sparkling as always, though he seemed a little tired. Well, no wonder, as he'd spent half of his day walking the forest and the other one dancing with raring young girls. We went back to the fire giant and I felt my cheeks and hands getting warm in the evening breeze. Vaya seemed to be hypnotized by the flames in front of us. He hardly managed to take his eyes off it. But when he did and he looked at me, I've never felt such warmth and peace as I did when our eyes met. We sat at the fire and we talked for most of the night. I don't know whether the doll moved yet, as I wasn't at home. And now for the morning meditation. Today's mantra is: clap out of rhythm to throw all the bad dances off. You'll get beaten up, but it will be fun. Good night, Střechovice. Good night, England. And good night to you, our precious summer.